So, when I arrived at the airport, back home in Dallas, it struck me like a ton of bricks as soon as I got out of the car. I left my power cord from my Microsoft Surface at home on my desk. Those of you that know the Surface know that it operates on a proprietary power adapter that can only be purchased from Microsoft. I had no time to go home to get mine. There was no Microsoft store at any airport where I was going, and there is no Microsoft store here in Warsaw. Trying to have an adapter shipped to me likely would have led to it arriving on the last day of my week trip in Poland. This episode of Dadages and my entire trip could have been compromised. If you've listened to Dadages for a while, you know a few things about me. 1, I generally have faith in the goodness of people. 2, I never box myself in when looking for creative solutions to problems. And 3, I value money only as a tool toward achieving objectives. So, when I got through security in Dallas, I went to the American Airlines lounge. I walked slowly around the entire lounge, examining each table, looking for someone who was working on a Microsoft Surface. That's where I found Jorge. I approached him, asked him if he was headed home or headed out on a business trip, and to my relief, he said he was on his way home. Excellent, I said. I have an odd proposition for you. I explained my predicament and offered him $200 to purchase his power adapter on the spot. It turns out Jorge had not just one, but 2 Surface power adapters. I'm telling you, Jorge is a superhero. After recovering from a bit of shock at the nature of my proposition, he said, I have an adapter for you, but your price is $200 too high. Jorge was willing to give it to me for free. I was grateful for his generosity, but honestly not shocked. As I said, I think people are generally good, and if you present yourself to them openly and honestly with a human-to-human request, I think you'll usually get a pretty positive outcome. I negotiated with Jorge and persuaded him to at least accept $50 from me, which is approximately the cost of the power adapter in the store. Ed is the founder of Village Well Parenting, a community where parents go to learn skills that nurture the parent-child relationship, heal intergenerational wounds, and discover the wisdom that allows parents to remain culturally grounded. Village Well helps parents embrace and share the beauty of their own cultural traditions without passing along their trauma. Ed has spent his career supporting low-income, underrepresented youth and adults by helping them gain access to the resources necessary to thrive. Working as a success strategist through youth programs, nonprofits, and schools.
One, there was this, I think, unaware, implicit assumption, if you will, of whiteness and middle upper classness, right? Mm-hmm. So references to my kids can wake up anytime they want, but they can't come downstairs until 7 o'clock because that's my alone time, right? And so there's a bunch of assumptions up in there. And then I found myself as somebody, so I am Filipino and so is my husband, and that some of our cultural traditions felt like they, or styles of raising our kids felt like they were under attack, if you will, in these parenting models. And so I wanted to figure out a way that, one, I could hold those traditions, right, while learning about parenting tools. So when you look back at many indigenous histories, right, queer folks were often seen as teachers, healers, people who were able to traverse multiple worlds because of identification with multiple genders. Yeah. And so we're often seen as mediators, marriage counselors, etc. Right? And then that was lost through colonization, and kind of the repression of LGBTQ community over time. So that to me is about going back and reclaiming power that may have been generationally associated with queer folks and then trying to bring it in. Most of my clients, most of the people in my community are in male-female relationships, or they're single moms or single dads, but most of them do not identify as queer. And so I want to create a space where all are welcome, but also that people know what they're getting into.
Yeah, it's such an amazing perspective. Thank you for sharing that bridging role and that force that you bring to the table with that heritage going back generations of the queer population and that role that they played. I loved what you said about recapturing all of that. That's really remarkable.
And you see that in all cultures, in all places, queer folks who have shown up for their community, even in their churches, even in their mosques, et cetera, to help raise kids. And so it's a tradition that my husband and I, when we decided to have kids, we decided to go the foster adopt route because we knew about that tradition. And also as an educator, I knew that I could love other people's kids. And that there were a lot of kids out there who needed support. And so that's why we chose that route as well. We've also been very blessed that our families, so both of our parents, the kids' grandparents, as well as biological aunties and uncles, love them and are a huge part of their lives. And so they're exposed to many, many heterosexual relationships in families. The difference for my kids, what I do see is that instead of the traditional kind of coming out story where one either is straight and that's normal or is not and then goes through a coming out process, my kids have the buffet in front of them, right? And so they get to decide at some point. And I've seen particularly my older kiddo who's 12 dabbling in both, crushes in multiple directions, talking about pairing up in the future with people of different genders. And I have a great story related to that. At one point, I think he was in 4th grade, I said, when you grow up, do you think you'll want to settle down with a man or a woman? And he said, I don't know. And he said, well, maybe a man, because if I marry my friend Griffin, then we could play video games all day long and no one will tell us what to do. And I said, if you think marriage is about no one telling you what to do, you're in for a lifetime of heartache, buddy.
Absolutely.
Right?
Whether he comes out as straight or gay, there's a lot of lessons to learn right there, I guess.
Yes.